Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Value. I'm your host, Rithik. Today, my guest, David Pacheco, is one of the most interesting engineering friends I've ever had. His CV speaks for itself as he has traversed through big tech companies like Oracle, to fintechs like Konfio and CrediJusto, to banks like Santander. Currently, he's a VP of engineering at RappiPay, helping Rappi expand into the banking sector and help millions of unbanked Mexicans become banked. Today, he is here to explain his journey into fintech as an engineer, his experience as an entrepreneur, and how Rappi is here to help Mexicans, and discuss some very important future trends that he's observing within the fintech sector. So without further ado, please help me welcome David.
Hello, Ritik. Thank you for that kindly introduction.
Thank you so much for taking time out to speak with me today. I'm extremely excited to speak to you and discuss all these interesting things that we've mentioned. I was just going through your LinkedIn profile and I saw all the amount of work that you've done and such a young age, and you're already the VP of engineering at RappiPay, and you've also exited a startup before as an entrepreneur yourself. So, I'm very excited to speak with you. Why don't you start us off by explaining your career path and how you ended up at Rappi?
Yeah, for sure. I think that we have too many learns. We have live in the past, between us. But I can start talking you a little bit about how I start in my career as a software engineer. I joined Oracle as a fresh graduate with those university recruiting that you used to go in the university, And so I decided to actually join to Oracle. And I remember that at that point of time, I was I was not decided if I want to continue my career in computer science, because I always felt that my real career was as a doctor. So
wow.
And I used to have all my papers and everything, and I already present the university exam to actually study as a doctor. And when Oracle told me that I was one of the people that will be joined his in their next batch, I think that's probably a good opportunity because from my generation, I guess only 3 people joined to Oracle at that point of time. So and one of those was me. So that was the reason that I started my career on the computer side of stuff. And for me, Oracle is a better company with true values, and they treat very, very well the engineers. And if you are and if it's your first job as an engineer, it's a very good company in which you can learn a lot how big tech companies used to work in software,
Correct.
Yeah, and then I decided to join Konfio. That I met you there, and was kind of fun. I decided to actually join my career as a little startup engineer, and I decided to put my career on the fintech stuff. And then, as you mentioned, I decided to leave Konfio because I have this new opportunity with one of my friends to start building our own company. And prior that, I also have a new role in consulting services in Oliver Wyman. So
correct.
Totally different. But at the end, I joined my career as a fintech, and I enjoy being on the fintech ecosystem. And I decided to join big banks, as you mentioned, at Santander, because the people that I met at Santander is why I'm here at Rappi right now.
Wow.
That's a little bit about
that's so impressive because it's so impressive, and it's such a short period of time. And I kind of feel like a lot of people would have spent, I don't know, their lives having worked at all these different experiences, entrepreneur, fintech, bank, and then now at a very successful, like a unicorn fintech now, leading a bunch of engineers yourself. So it's very interesting. I mean, I'm very fascinated, and one of the very few engineers that I've met who has that sort of business angle and also like the technical chops to back up what you're saying. So that immediately leads me to the first question that I have for you is that, you've worked in a small startup. Like when we were at Konfio, it was just 2 desks, right?
Yeah.
And
And I
also,
was like, and I was like a very fresh engineer, even
that's
like
true.
I have already like 3 years of experience at Oracle.
Yeah.
I think that at Confio, I didn't know like everything that I should know to actually join as a senior engineer on the startup,
Yeah, yeah,
but
exactly.
but
Yeah,
I was figuring out at that point of time,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've also had the experience of working at a big software engineering firm or a bank. So my question is, what is the difference between an engineer in a startup and an engineer at a big, either a software company or a bank, for example?
Yeah, I mean, in a bank was different because I wasn't like an engineer or a hands-on engineer. I was more on the role as on the management team.
Okay.
So that's different, but I can tell you a little bit about how a bank is like trying to get into these new agile methodologies and all that stuff. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
But for example, working on a big tech company as an Oracle, and the difference as a startup, I guess that the startup has their own idea about how tech should be,
Okay.
about how is the role, the tech role in the company, because probably in startup see tech area as just like as a factory, as a software factory, but probably there are another startups that looks tech as like the backbone of the company, like Rappi, like Konfio, for example. Those companies seem like the backbone of the company is tech, and the engineers has like a very important role on the company. And in Oracle, I think that you have an important role, but sales also have an important role, because you are actually making the product that the salespeople is going to like actually sell, So, but at the end, you have like a career path very like defined in a big tech company, and it's very, very organized. And in a startup, it's totally different. I mean, it doesn't matter like what is your career path. At the time that you join, probably it will change in the next 6 months. Probably also it will change in the next year. What I was like looking on a startup was actually how can I grow in a very fast way? How can I grow my career? How can I like put like asteroids on my career, How can I learn about, at that point of time, I was a backend engineer. So how can I learn front-end engineer? How can I learn data engineer? And I also joined in Konfio as a data engineer when I was like backend engineer. So, and that was kind of fun. I decided like, yeah, probably I could learn that,
Yeah.
But I noticed that the whole knowledge that I have and the whole like school that I have in my past was like actually I think that I success at Konfio, I guess.
Wow. Yeah. No. And I remember like when you joined, and then just I would say like within the first month, even the things that you were starting to help us do was something that perhaps you were struggling to do for like 3-4 months. And I remember like how quickly, like what you wanted to do, I kind of feel like you kind of got out of it as well, because I remember you grew really fast within the company as well. If let's say somebody's planning to join, right out of college, if you had to choose, would you go straight into a startup, or would you recommend somebody going to like a big software engineering firm like Oracle, kind of have that structure first and then jump into a startup?
Oof, that's an interesting question that I normally ask myself. but But I would recommend that you should join a startup if the CTO is like having this big tech school, you know, because probably you are going to learn a lot of that guy. And he has like the whole knowledge and all stuff. But if you're joining a startup which none of the founders are technical guys, and they want to actually trying to figure out how can they actually make the tech company, and they are asking you for probably a web page one day, and another they are asking you for introduce a payment gateway or something like that. Probably it's not the best idea to join that startup, you know. So I would recommend, if you are planning to start your career on a startup, go for a very like mature startup like Konfio, CrediJusto, or Pizzo, for example. For me, it's like a great company as well.
Interesting. Very well said. Yeah.
Yeah. If not, you should go to the normal path. Like you can join Oracle, Facebook, Amazon, wherever you want.
Which also leads me to the next question, and something that you were talking about earlier, you know, that you were a back-end engineer, and then there's front-end, there is full stack. These are all terms that, you know, a lot of people use in startups, but perhaps our listeners who are not part of this world won't know. Like, what is a back-end engineer? What is a front-end engineer? What is a full stack engineer, for example?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in very like simple terms, the backend engineer is to actually make the things happen when you didn't know. And the front-end engineer is who actually triggers the things that should happen, you know? The front engineer is basically what you are seeing that the people see, the UI interface. That's the front engineer. And the backend engineer is actually make like the whole logic and the whole things should be connected to actually make a transaction, for example. You didn't notice that because you just select the variables and all that stuff, and but behind that there is a whole of systems that connects itself to actually makes you like allows you to make a transaction. So that's basically that. And the role of data engineer is very fun because I think that at point of time that I joined Konfio, it wasn't like very famous in Mexico, you know. I remember that Paco and I was reading like a blog from Airbnb about how data engineers can help the company. And Paco told me like, I think that your role is a data engineer. Yeah, you know? Yeah, and I said like, yeah, probably my role is data engineer. And that's where I end up with that title. But basically the data engineer is the guy who is in charge of the data and allows like all the people can consume the same data in a very fast way, or in the way that it should be like optimized for the whole system. That's basically a data engineer. And a data engineer can help every company that you can imagine. It doesn't matter if it's a fintech or it's not, but imagine that you have tons of transactions, tons of payments, how you can process that, how you are going to store that, how you can allow the financial guys to get to that data in a real-time way, you know? So that's the role of the data engineer guy.
Excellent.
It's a very important role. And probably most of the companies in Mexico, they are not thinking like they need it. But when I joined the company, I see like, guys, you need a data engineering area.
Amazing. And what is a full stack engineer, and what is a technical product manager?
Well, a full stack is like a guy who actually knows everything, but he didn't know like everything at the same time, you know?
Got it. Okay. Like a generalist.
Yeah, like a generalist, like can get you like he can jump in every like situation or every like business solution that you want to actually develop. So they can jump like very fast in that solution, but that guy is not like a subject matter expert on backend or frontend. So
got it.
Yeah, and actually, if you are planning to start your startup, probably you should hire tons of full stacks and not just frontend or backend, because you don't know like what is the actual people that you are going to need for your end system, you know?
Yeah.
You can have the idea, but you but you don't know.
So
And
very well, yeah.
and the technical product manager is very fun because I actually it was like kind of the same at Konfio.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that I was talking with the CTO at CrediJusto, Aaron,
Mm-hmm.
and a super nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me like, what do you want to do in your career? Like, you want to enjoy CrediJusto as a backend or as a front end? Tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that I was like, no, probably I don't want to actually be so hands-on on the code because
Okay.
I think that I've been already like 5 years on that.
Yeah.
And I remember that I was like just exiting my company and I said like, I think that I should learn product. But
Yeah.
I'm very technical for product. He told me like
Uh...
you are very technical for product, and I was like, yeah, I'm very technical for product, and I was like, why can I do like technical product management? you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing, and that sums up startups, I think, in my opinion. Like all these roles that come up, and you're always confused, like what does that even mean? But usually, you're just solving a problem, and then the title is just there because you need a title, right? I kind of feel sometimes with exactly that technical product manager
yeah,
role.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. You shouldn't chase the title in a startup.
Yeah.
You just like be focused on your work, and actually,
Yes.
yeah, and having like just make sure that your work have an impact in the startup.
Excellent. Right,
Yeah,
and that leads me to the next question as well, which is that, some people have this idea, and I kind of feel like there's these schools of thoughts within the startup world that you don't really need to know how to code in order to be an entrepreneur, or you don't really need to be technical at all in order to be very successful at creating and scaling and launching, etc. And you being somebody who has a lot of technical skills, engineering skills, and you have actually sold a company before or exited out of a startup before. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you think it's becoming more important with time? Do you think it's two different things? Do you think it's important to have that kind of technical skills? Well, what's your opinion on that?
I mean, it depends on the company. Like probably if the company is you are selling software, it's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult that you want to actually build a software and sell that software if you uh, don't have the knowledge about the technical stuff of your software and you are not solving the actual problem with that. So, but for sure, you don't need to have like any coding skills
Okay.
for start a company. I mean, you can learn it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can just like show YouTube videos about how can I do a web page, and you
Oh
can
yeah.
start with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you should focus on your MVP. I would say that like focus on your MVP, focus on build your MVP, and then with more money, probably you
Mm-hmm.
can just like partner with a technical guy. But always looking for a partnership more than hire someone.
Got it. Got it.
If you are not technical, it's better having this kind of partnership with a guy that it looks like it's very technical, and that for me is like the recipe for startups.
Excellent. Now, changing track a bit, RappiPay. First of all, congratulations on this amazing credit card that you guys have launched, and the reviews are outstanding. Most of the people that I know that are using it are in love with it. And obviously, you being the VP of engineering at RappiPay, you had a big hand in making this a successful launch. So I kind of wanted to get, your opinion as to how your journey has been within RappiPay so far. And the second question was, you're now competing with this explosion of all these neobanks like Fondeadora, Clar, Albo. What are some advantages you think Rappi is bringing, or how are you guys different from these guys?
Yeah, I think that we are very different because we already have a platform and we
Mm-hmm.
are already have a very strong user base.
Okay.
Even if you love Rappi or hate Rappi, probably you are going to use it, because there are certain things that you can always find on Rappi. that you cannot find on Uber Eats and the other platforms. So what we are trying to accomplish at Rappi is actually create like an ecosystem and just one-stop shop for everything. So how we can like actually having this punch on the application and for our user is actually becoming like a very like a strong fintech, you know? So we already solved kind of the problems. We are also getting into the e-commerce. We are getting into the travel. So how we can just don't get it to the actual financial stuff. So Rappi, and this is a kind of funny story because Rappi started like their fintech journey a while ago with the RappiCrediJusto.
Correct.
And they found like it was a way to actually return your money very fast without waiting for the actual bank to return your money. So that's the reason why we start with the Rappi credits. And then you can imagine that right now that we are launching the credit card and all that stuff, we can having like the whole ecosystem, and you can spend your money and have it more benefits if you are using our own product, and you don't need the bank anymore because Rappi is going to give you everything and all of the services that you probably can imagine. We are also working on that. So we have like a strong ambition, and we want actually to reduce the gap in Latam and also in Mexico of the people that doesn't have like any bank, you know? Like don't have any bank,
And how has your personal journey within RappiPay been?
It was, joining at Rappi, it's like joining like a Formula One car, you know, that is already moving. So and you need to jump, and you need to jump in.
It's a very good analogy.
And you jump in, and then someone asks you like, "How about if you can just like be the driver of this car?" And you say like, "Okay, but I didn't know like how can I get into, you know?" It's like it's been an amazing journey about how you don't have. Rappi is already a big company, but you can imagine that everyone in the company has this rush about how we can move faster and faster and faster. And that's kind of one of the strong values of Rappi. And for me, the prior Rappi, I was at Santander, so it was like a bump, you know. And also in Rappi, you need to be very hands-on with everything. You just don't wait. Wow. Everyone at Rappi hates that you wait for something to happen, you know? If you can do it, what you are not doing. It doesn't matter if you are a VP. It's supposed that you can code, right? So just do it.
Nice. And that again is also a very important cornerstone or pillar in the startup world. I feel that you just mentioned, you know, everything is your job and also nothing is your job. You know, it doesn't matter if you're VP or analyst or whatever. If there's a problem to be solved, you have to attack it and you have to do it, right? It's a very important concept that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, definitely. The only difference is that you are going to making more decisions than if you're having like a different role, but just that.
Interesting. And you know, before we move on to the next section, what are some interesting trends that you're seeing? Or you know, you're obviously somebody who spent a lot of time in this industry and have a lot of network. What is something that interests you or excites you about fintech in the future?
Oh, of course, I guess like inclusion. There are like few options in Mexico to actually are focused on inclusion.
Okay.
How can you get like the people having not just like a card?
Okay.
It's more than that, just like a credit card or a product, even like any credit product. For me, that's like the next step, and probably we are going to see here in Mexico some of these credit builders that I think in the last YC batch there were like 4 or 5 credit builders for the United States. I think that is just I think that is just kind of like in a short period of time, we are going to see like this new wave. Also,
Okay.
I think that we are going to see waves in the SME neobanks, because you probably know better than me that it's just an area that everyone wants to explore, like breaks in the United States. So probably we will see something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, for me, those, and I think that there are like tons of opportunities here in Latam that we are not seeing. You know, I learned that working in a bank, because the bank, or probably most of the banks, used to work with these like big companies with all their technologies. It's just a matter of time as we see like there are new payment processors as Galileo, that we see like probably companies that are solving in a new way the problems that the bank didn't know or doesn't know that it has, you know?
I just wanted to sort of take a step back. You know, you mentioned about financial inclusion at the beginning, and also that the latest batch of Y Combinator saw 3 or 4 credit builders in the US. I have 2 follow-up questions. You know, what is a credit builder, number 1? And number 2, you know, if these guys are already getting the first mover advantage, how would it be different if, let's say, there's a Mexican credit builder versus like the one in the US? How would a Mexican one be more robust or more localized in that sense, as compared to somebody who could just, you know, take all of their experience in another market and come to Latin America?
Well, the first question was what is a credit builder? Basically, when you are young and you don't have like access to any card, or you don't have like any credit card, it's very difficult, because actually the bank is asking you to having like a credit card to give you another credit card, you know? So, and it's the same, like, how can I get a credit card if you are asking me to already have one? So a credit builder basically wants to solve that. Gives you the opportunity to start building your score, just your score, that allows you to having like a credit card when you are like more older.
Understood. Got it.
Yeah.
Perhaps to summarize, you know, the difference between Mexico and the US in terms of the system and the infrastructure for credit builders, for example.
I think that you need to understand your market, you know, because right now in Mexico, the average of a credit card that the people or a person has, it's very low.
True.
Probably it's lower than 1. So I think that you need to focus in actually that bridge, like understand the people and understand why the credit is not bad at the end, and actually gives you all the tools to these people, to they don't even care if the credit is good or bad. You can allow you, and you can be on the journey for this credit, you know? And in terms of what I should focus if I was like a new joiner on this, I think that probably trying to build a cool product, just that.
Got it. Very
I think that in
interesting.
Mexico, we need more cool products, you know?
Yes.
Like,
I agree.
I mean, we are getting, there are like tons of founders with backgrounds in big banks and big companies and that stuff, but they are not like having like this mentality in which you need to actually build cool products, like Slack or something like that, you know? Yeah.
Completely agree with that as well. It was a very interesting observation. Now moving to the next section called payback period, where the guest asks the host a question. So David, what question do you have for me today?
I think that the same last question. What do you see, or what do you expect for 2021 in the fintech environment?
That's a very good question. A lot of times most people ask me what I think about the next 5 years, but I like, you know, just next year. And that's how quickly I feel that the startup world moves as well, that even 1 year you can see like some sort of a trend forming, or a trend starting and then decreasing and not existing anymore. I kind of feel like there'll be the continued pressure of COVID, etc., is going to force a lot more people online. Even if they don't want to be online, they don't have a choice. So like all these companies like Justo, Amazon, online retailers, for example, they're going to be seeing a massive explosion. I feel that there should be a bigger push here in Mexico, especially for more entrepreneurs to focus on online retail. One thing that I feel that can really be better is the online shopping experience. Like, you know, all these Walmarts, Liverpool, even Gaia, they have like a pretty decent portal, but having shopped online, I never feel 100% secure as to what I'm buying. And then once
Something
you
like,
buy,
something like a Stitch Fix or something like that.
Exactly. And I feel that one brand that I'm in love with is ASOS, which is in the UK. And I get a lot of my clothes from there. And they deliver to Mexico, which is great. But then I feel that there should be a local player here. And like, just like you said, you know, it needs to be cool. It needs to be easy to use. And it needs to have that sort of pride behind it. You know, I kind of feel like a lot of the online portals, like if you go to Walmart's portal especially, it just feels like it was made by somebody who just got out of college, you know, didn't really put a lot of pride into it. It just exists. You know, you don't feel like you're having a great user experience, even if it's simple. It just looks like meh. You know, but if when you go to ASOS's portal, you're like, wow, you genuinely want to buy the clothes because they have such a creative way of presenting the clothes. All the articles have a very nice, cool write-up about it. And they understand that the user is worried about, is it going to fit me? Like, you know, if something is different, can I easily return? Not a problem. Like, the return policy is very clear and very transparent and very flexible. Like these kind of things, you know, here, if let's say, I don't know, I order something and then it arrives and I'm like, I go back, even with Palacio, I go back and I tell them, hey, I don't like it. The return is going to take like 5 months. And then my money, I have no idea when my money is going to come back, which is such a pain I feel right now. So I feel that those guys there needs to be something to plug that in for sure.
But we already see some of these kind of intents here in Mexico.
Okay.
Like having like the next Asus but for Latam, but probably, as you mentioned, they are not focused on the experience, on the cool things that actually a guy who is looking for buy something online is actually like thinking about it, you know?
Correct.
And as you mentioned, the experience it's not just like how can you open the box. It's more like that, how you can buy it, how you can look at the product.
Correct.
And obviously how you can return the product.
Correct. That's so true. And that's like one aspect. And I feel like the other aspect is obviously the fintech aspect of the banks, neobanks, for example. I think there'll be more neobanks coming in. I think 2021 will be too early to decide if there's going to be a front runner or front runners. I think because of COVID, almost anybody can do it, you know, and maybe get a few thousand users by giving away just the basic user experience and how do I say, a lot of free money in that sense, and just can get users. But only when things start going back to normal, when they're looking for the next round of funding, when they're looking for that explosive growth or consolidation, that's when a lot of these guys either may merge or may sort of run out of operations or be bought over by somebody. That's when things will really start disrupting. I think that hasn't happened yet because a lot of them are still like, oh, we raise our seed funding, we raise our Series A. So, you know, they have a lot of money for relatively low number of users. But once that user growth starts bursting through the ceiling, they're going to need more money. And that's when the most important thing will come out. Are you profitable? How is your road to profitability looking like? How can you sustain this growth? The real tough questions beyond just can you provide the basic banking experience with a lot of perks?
Yeah. And do you think that we are going to have like newcomers like Nubank, but we are going to have like N26, Revolut or Monzo or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think especially company like Revolut, the good thing is that, you know, coming from Singapore where Revolut is just taking over the market on a almost on a daily basis, you know, they're releasing something new almost on a monthly basis. It's very impressive, you know, and the way they have taken over Asia, I'll be surprised if they don't make an attack on Latin America, because the opportunity is so massive here, especially for a company that is constantly pushing new boundaries, and their success has already been sort of cemented in Asia. I definitely foresee these guys making a play here.
That will be like an interesting battle, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to the point, you need to understand the market. And I feel like that's where it'll really come down to, do the local neobanks understand the market, or do the foreign players somehow understand it better than we do?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that most of or a big amount of the investors don't know about the market, about
Correct.
the Mexican market, about the culture, that it's very important.
Correct.
Like how we have these like stunning numbers about inclusion, that everyone wants to actually having like this piece of, or think that it's a piece of cake, like.
Yeah.
But and because in numbers it's like a massive opportunity that everyone wants to take it.
Yes, so true. I would love to keep talking about this, but unfortunately, we'll have to wrap up here. Before we end, I wanted to ask you: do you have any advice for future entrepreneurs or engineers who are looking to make a switch towards startups, or who are getting out of college?
Yeah, just for engineers, I guess, like, don't be afraid of moving from your comfort zone. That would be my only advice. So trying to learn new things, even that is not your expertise area.
Excellent. Very, very good point. David, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you today. I can't wait to have you back when, RappiPay has released a bunch of other very interesting products, and we can have a whole episode talking about that as well. Thank you so much for taking time out, and you can reach David on his LinkedIn, which I'll include it in the post for this podcast. Thank you so much again for coming.
Thanks to you.
And this was Lifetime Value.